Bang. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk football. Episode number 13. I don't know how we've been doing this show for a year now. We've done 13 episodes. I feel very embarrassed by it. Honestly, kind of a really extremely boring week 18 slate. I got the hiccups, apparently. But we did just have the Detroit Lions with 31 points and the Minnesota Vikings with 9. The Detroit Lions finished 15-2. They will be your number one seed, and they will be the NFC North title winners, and they'll be the team that records the bye. I'm going to pull off the NFL playoff bracket now because the season's officially over. There were a couple of good games out there. Like last night, Saturday night, it wasn't a good football game. Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh. Cincinnati gets the win. They finished 9-8. Huge run to finish off the season, win 5 straight games. And Pittsburgh, obviously wasn't going to miss the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. But that was a good game, but also not really. It also was actually relatively boring. I'm looking for an article here. Folks, before we get into it, we got 12 people watching here live. Throw all the live chats down below, all your opinions, all your comments, all your questions. Throw that all down below. But before we get a bunch of people in here, I do just want to say this is available on streaming sites. The link is in the description to this stream. It's called Let's Talk Football with Jackson Ostro, and this is iteration number 13. Now, folks, I have a feeling a lot of Lions fans specifically are fired up right now. I'm sure there's a lot of Minnesota Vikings fans awake right now as well. We're going to get into all this. I want to pull up, maybe it's a little too early because the game literally just ended relatively recently, but I'm looking for an NFL picture type of thing. We have no brackets, even though the games are official. I'm looking for just something that's sexy on the eyes here. Let's see if Yahoo Sports has got it going on. Yahoo Sports has got it going on. So we're going to pull this up in the background of this. Hit that like button. Goes an extremely long way, folks. You have no idea here. I'll put myself at the bottom left of the screen. Maybe left. Oh, that's definitely not going to be it. We'll do bottom left here. Let's hit the live chat. Appreciate all y'all tuning in here. Go Lions. Hail victory from DL. 6-0 in the division. 8-0 on the road. 4 players with 1,000 scrimmage yards. One hell of a team. One hell of an offense this season. After watching the Sunday Night Football game, the Lions are the big NFC dog. No questions asked. And that was my immediate reaction. I made actually, this is kind of shitty for the, it's not, hey, there we go. That was my immediate reaction. I just made a Detroit Lions recap video, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen that or what have you. I like the Vikings. I'm a Packers fan. You see the Jordan Love. I actually got an Aaron Rodgers jersey up here since the last podcast. I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan, but I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area. I got a stupid freaking Bears hat on because they whooped our goddamn ass today. I've got a ton of family from the Detroit area, so a lot of people asked in the comments and stuff who I was leaning towards, who I was rooting for. It was definitely the Detroit Lions, but I love the Minnesota Vikings, and the fact they went 14-3 is unbelievable, and they have an extremely bright future. I think, everyone's concerned about Sam Darnold and are they going to pay him? Teams are inquiring about J.J. McCarthy. I think it's an extremely good problem to have, and I don't think by any means that kicks them out of the playoffs or anything like that. We'll get into this bracket here in a second, but my point was the Detroit Lions big dogged them. I said the words big broed them. I think they just big broed the Minnesota Vikings, and they big broed my Green Bay Packers. My Packers just got big broed by the Vikings. But obviously there's levels to this. There's one question mark team to me in the NFC, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles as far as legitimate Super Bowl contenders go. I very much enjoy the Los Angeles Rams, even more so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think you got to be looking at right now the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Minnesota Vikings probably as the top 3 sandwich layer Uncrustables. All right, let's hit this chat. I can see LA upsetting the Vikings. Same with Washington upsetting Tampa. All right, let's take a look here because I haven't gotten a clear look at this quite yet. Hey, get out of there. All right, wild card round, and these are official on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm pretty sure I think Vikings Rams is next Monday night, if I'm not mistaken. So on the left side, the AFC, we got the wild card, Kansas City Chiefs, #1 seed. All right, this is for our audio visual or our audio listeners, especially. You have the Denver Broncos on the road against the Buffalo Bills. Extremely unfortunate if you're the Denver Broncos. Never say never. I learned my lesson last year with third stringer Mason Rudolph and the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Buffalo in a snow game, and then it got delayed. Honestly, like even if Denver plays the better game, it just kind of feels like Buffalo is going to advance to the divisional round where it looks like they're hitting the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. Is that how this bracket works? We have we're on Yahoo Sports here. Ryan Young just posted this 40 minutes ago. All right, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. I actually think that's a pretty decent matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Los Angeles Chargers at Houston Texans. Obviously, I'm throwing this in. Obviously, the most ideal situation for the Los Angeles Chargers. Wild card round, obviously, the Lions are the #1 seed. You have my Green Bay Packers against the Philadelphia Eagles. You have the Washington Commanders on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers, who the Rams are one of their 3 losses on the season, and Detroit were the other 2. We got a lot of live chatters, and I love doing this for the live chats. We're just going to hit this up. Jax Dara. Jahmyr Gibbs got the single-season touchdown record as a Lion. It was just a year where the Detroit Lions, I swear, and this began last season, the Detroit Lions just literally breaking records every single football. Some record gets broken every time the Detroit Lions play a football game. Have fun playing Matt Stafford in L.A., Sam Darnold. Don't worry, he only won the Super Bowl in that stadium. It's perfect for them. I actually kind of feel in a similar boat. I'm a Packers fan, like I said already. You know, I'm from Chicagoland area, so all my friends are Bears fans. And people were asking for my thoughts on playing Philly. Obviously, the ideal situation would be on the road against Tampa Bay. I still it's the playoffs. No win is easy. No win is easy at all. So my ideal situation would have probably been going against the, injured secondary in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and an unproven defense, even though I think Tampa steps up when they do. But that would have been the ideal choice. And then you had the Rams and Philly. Detroit took care of Los Angeles last year in Detroit. That was a really 50-50 game for a lot of people at that point in time. I personally don't desperately fear the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not terrified from Philly. I will say this as a Green Bay Packers fan. I don't think the Packers are ready necessarily for a Super Bowl, especially because of Christian Watson's injury today, but just that's been a reoccurring theme. Like if you're a Packers fan, you know what I'm talking about. I think the Packers clearly need a proven wide receiver #1. I don't think that's going to come in the draft. I don't think Green Bay would even do that. I'm not saying you have to get rid of a player like Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and his unfortunate fumble today, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson. A lot of Packers fans want to trade Christian Watson, but my point just is I think the Packers are not quite there, and I think that's been obvious, and I think that was pretty obvious last season because we were the youngest offense as well. But this year it's like, okay, now it's like pretty clear. Like, Green Bay could go into Philly and win. Theoretically, we could go into Detroit to win. But my point just is, even if Green Bay plays a good, solid football game, they'll probably find a way to shoot themselves in the foot and lose. That's coming from a Packers fan. I don't think we'll get eaten up by Philly because I don't view Jalen Hurts as the way I guess everyone else views Jalen Hurts. I still think Jalen's a good quarterback, but we got Addy here. As a Vikings fan, that was super embarrassing loss. Wow, we played horribly that entire game. Season's been great, but that game was the worst. It really was insane, and it was 7-6 game right before Goff threw that football to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I talked about this in my Lions recap video, but that Detroit field goal to end the second half and then holding Minnesota to a 4th and turnover situation. Of course, I forget what that word is. 4th and turnover on downs, pretty much. It was exactly what it is. Chris Collinsworth even said something. I don't really love Chris. I don't hate him at all. I actually kind of probably lean more towards liking Chris Collinsworth. But he was saying a couple of things like, we've never really seen this version of the Detroit Lions, struggling this much on offense. And he was relatively true. In Minnesota and Detroit in the first, not great at math here, 35, 40-ish minutes was a defensive just battle. It was beautiful. It was real hard knock football, right? Oh, well, we're super behind. Let's get through these. What's up, Kerem? Appreciate you pulling in. I saw your tweet. If anyone wants to follow my Twitter, links in the description. I have some takes that no one really likes except Kerem, so appreciate you. Sam Darnold had his collapse, and this was tough, man. Amik Robertson just had an insane game. I wish I highlighted that a little bit more in my Lions victory recap video just now. Amik Robertson, he's like, I want to say off the top of my head he's 5'7", but I think he's probably 5'9", right? I'm gonna go. He's 5'9". He's around 5'9", right? Maybe he's listed at 5'10" or what have you. Amik Robertson was picked up from Detroit this offseason, and it got really flown under the radar because they drafted Terrion Arnold in the first round. And then they, soon after that drafted Ennis Rakestraw, who's been banged up. And they also have Melifonwu and Kirby Joseph. And obviously they traded for Carlton Davis from Tampa. Amik Robertson got so under the radar, swept under the rug type of move. And the only reason I kind of specifically noticed this is because, like I say in these streams, I've had a Raiders channel, my Las Vegas Raiders channel that I should post on more. That was my first ever NFL YouTube channel. I wasn't even really posting NFL videos here on Will Upton at that point in time. Devontae Adams got traded to the Raiders, and I was like, let's try the NFL. Let's make some NFL videos. So we're starting with the Raiders team. So I've watched the Raiders every single game for 3 full seasons now. And Amik Robertson and the Raiders kind of, Rock Ya-Sin, you name it, kind of have this trending thing where they let young, good enough cornerbacks go. And Amik Robertson's been an absolute gem, and he's just been super good when his name gets called upon. And we're waiting on the Terrion Arnold injury, but that sucks. Sam Darnold, 18 of 41, 166 yards. He averaged 4 yards per completion. No touchdowns, no interceptions. They barely ran the football. Cam Akers had a good 58-yarder. So technically, Minnesota ran the ball 19 times for 120 yards, averaging 6.3 yards per carry. If I had my calculator out, I would calculate it right now. But it just, outside of that, Aaron Jones had some really good runs. He got banged up. They just big broed him. Lions just big broed him. I would not want, if I was the Detroit Lions, I always feel a little bit cautious when it, if we're talking my Green Bay Packers and I've beaten the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings or the Chicago Bears twice in the season. I always feel a little bit hesitant heading into a third playoff game. But thankfully for Detroit, kind of not really an issue right now, right? And that kind of has me thinking, isn't this bracket wrong? Is this cannot be how it works? Because if Minnesota and the Rams win, wouldn't they play the Detroit Lions? Isn't that? Sorry. I forgot it's based on seeding. I forgot the NFL a couple of years ago tweaked it up. Darnold overthrowing it. To be fair, Jared Goff, in the first half, it was like a disgusting offensive game. Both quarterbacks were overthrown, underthrown, you name it. Both quarterbacks were under severe distress. Honestly, for most of the game, the Lions kind of adjusted properly towards the end of that third quarter, and they were able to sustain some longer drives at the end of the third and into the fourth. But both quarterbacks, Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, were under insane duress. And, Collinsworth and Tirico, I think it was the co-host on NBC or whatever, they were bringing this up. Both these two quarterbacks really haven't seen, pressure like this at this consistent of a level. All right, Kabir here. Off topic, but Miami choosing to retain McDaniel and career shows they're okay with mediocrity. I understand why Tyreek wants out. I didn't see Tyreek wants out until I was just watching the post-game editing this Lions video or posting this Lions video, and I saw Tyreek. They were going through storylines, and Tyreek Hill said, "Yeah, I'm all right." I think he said the word "bruh." Said, "Bruh, I'm good. I'm out of here." Those weren't his words verbatim, but it's crazy to me. Tyreek Hill actually wants out. Tua's got to play in warm weather. We played him on Thanksgiving in Lambeau Field, and I don't know. I personally, I don't have a vendetta against the Miami Dolphins in any way, shape, or form. I haven't made too many Dolphins video in my NFL career on this channel, but I love when teams go into a game versus a team I'm playing, talk shit, and get hit. I just love stuff like that. Tua saying, it's cold, whatever, man. Who gives a rip? That cold weather. Come on, man. Who cares about the cold weather? And then you just get your ass fucking clamped. I love that crap when it's my team. Darnold was only good because of good coaching, and he has one of the best receiving core and offensive line. I've got the hiccups, so I'm taking this in out. That left tackle, Cam got hurt really quick, and that offensive line has done a very good job. So I disagree. What's up, Shift God? Lions might have to play in the North in the playoffs. Probably. We got two other teams in there. Have Packers beaten a good team? No, they have not. And I said this in my group chats with my friends who were shit talking the Bears winning because that sucked. Absolute concrete balls. And, Jordan Love gets banged up, and I'm wearing a stupid Bears hat because I just love the fit. It's extremely sun effed because of living in Florida. But I bought this at a Bears game during Hurricane Ian, right before Ian. And this is a good time with my buddy. But I have a Chicago Bears channel. It's like my third ever NFL channel. But my point is the Packers haven't beaten a good team, and I would rather get that out of the way right away. We're going to have to play a Philadelphia. We're going to have to play Detroit. You're going to have to play a Los Angeles, Minnesota, Washington, Tampa. These are all really good football teams. Maybe if you want to skew it now because the Vikings lost and people are going to overreact, is you're going to have to play. If you want to win a Super Bowl, the Green Bay Packers are going to have to play a Philadelphia or Detroit. So I'd rather get it out of the way. Felt similar but different because the Packers were on a crazy second half streak this time last year. So heading into Dallas and the playoffs is its own thing. But, honestly, I'd predict the Packers win, but I think that's more so my ego. We are 1-5 in the division. Caleb Williams is technically undefeated in Lambeau Field, which is really annoying. So I'd prefer to not remember that. Regardless of what happens, Green Bay still got a great young team. Just need to retool some positions, and we have cap space for it. I completely agree. I just think they need like an OG, not necessarily like an Allen Robinson, not to use the Lions as an example, but I think they need an OG. I think they need a proven wide receiver one. Pay a little bit of money, pay some money. They did it last offseason. I'm sure they're down for it, but whether it's a trade, free agency, I don't really know. We'll deal with that in a month or so, but I do think Green Bay needs a little bit more veterans in that. And the Detroit Lions have home field, and it's just crazy, and they're probably hopefully going to win Super Bowl. I really just hope they do. Riley, I appreciate you, my brother. I appreciate that very much. We got Brandon OG Lions fan in here, 61-9. And I love this for KJ. I'm a Titans fan, and I feel us Titans fans thought we were getting underrated. I completely agree that I had a couple of bad takes in the offseason. It's just a couple, right? Just a couple. But the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis. I was a Will Levis believer. I was a Callahan believer. I was a Wilson believer. I really thought the Titans were going to be technically, apparently, the worst team in the NFL. But that first round pick, man, I still think the Titans are in a pretty decent position. I was watching the NBC broadcast and saw Tyreek kill $1. Isn't that crazy? Cowboys season's over. San Fran season is over. So I'm happy. I'm going to sleep well. That was just a great football game we had on our television tonight. If everyone had a something to their head and it was life or death, who would you predict the Super Bowl to be? Let's hear it in the comments for anyone trying to get it out there. I did put a couple of teams. I didn't want to talk mainly. I did want to talk mainly Lions-Vikings because it just happened. But, outside of that, man, I really think it was a shitty week of football. Like I said at the beginning of this stream before most people were in here. Carolina, I really like Bryce Young right now. Drew Lock didn't pan out the way I thought it was. The Patriots won. The Jets won. Love those. Seattle at 10-7, missing the playoffs really sucks, but long term, I like that team a lot. Chargers got a nice little win there. Respect to the Arizona Cardinals for taking down the San Francisco 49ers just out of pride. Houston technically got a win. They're 10-7. I haven't made a Texans video in a long time. I view this Bucs team, maybe it's because I live in the Tampa Bay area now, but I view this Bucs team as a very talented roster, specifically on offense. And I think I made a film study on Jalen McMillan. the rookie wide receiver on Tampa. I'm watching the news here. I got the Florida news on right now. And they're doing Saints versus Bucs, and I'm seeing Jalen McMillan make a couple of plays. But I really like him long term. I don't know what Chris Godwin's future looks like, or what have you. But the one team I would say in the NFC I don't have too much experience with, in the sense of Washington is like a true definition of a wild card. I really like this year's wild cards because I think they're all pretty much on the mark, specifically in the NFC. Like, I think my Green Bay Packers are definitely a wild card. Like, you don't know. I have no idea. I think the Washington Commanders are extremely a wild card. I have no idea what they could do or can't do. And I think also the Minnesota Vikings, too, are a very good example of a wild card team. And then even in the AFC, Denver's kind of the definition of a wild card. Pittsburgh also, because they were 10-3 and now they're 10-7. And the Chargers with Justin Herbert and Harbaugh, the new head coach, and just kind of an unproven team. Like, it's a really interesting playoff match we got here. Zin's got my finger sticky. Being a Vikings fan is miserable. Off topic. Hit the like button. Everybody, that goes a very long way. Once again, these are available on streaming sites because this is 12:30 here Eastern Standard Time. I hate it. If you live in Eastern Standard Time and you like sports, specifically football, or also especially the NBA, you know what the hell I'm talking about. But I did want to get this out here Sunday night for you guys because, wow, it's Monday freaking morning. Even though it's so late, just because it's technically the end of the regular season. It's crazy, man. It went so fast. It was kind of a weird year. Like, it went really fast, but at the same time, some of the storylines were very slow. I feel like it didn't get too interesting until, like, there were specific storylines every single week where you were like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." I feel like that's something. Is that the Kool-Aid man? Oh yeah, oh yeah. He breaks through the thing. Oh yeah. There were a couple of weeks where you're the Kool-Aid man, and then there were a couple of weeks like today where I'm like, just I lost to the stupid freaking Bears, man. I hate, honestly, so much when that happens. I was pissed off for most of the day until 8:20 came, and it was like, ooh, yeah. Lions-Vikings, yeah. I don't know. Maybe we keep him as a backup. I really like the Viking situation right now. I love it. It reminds me of Aaron. I'm not trying to compare Aaron Rodgers to Sam Darnold, but my point just is, and I think like Tom Brady, that was like his big thing in the offseason too. It's like quarterback, the team's just, the ownership in the NFL now is so quick. Like, you need results like so freaking fast. And to have a journeyman like Sam Darnold, give him another year, man. JJ is still extremely young. Like, I think it's a great thing to have. You got JJ's rookie contract for many more years here. You might have to pay Sam Darnold an arm and a leg. Honestly, I tried to avoid this in my Vikings videos or my live streams recently because it's like last week that Packers win some way, somehow, even though that was the Vikings' 9th straight win, that was the game where that team was finally on the map, which I thought was so funny. And Sam Darnold's finally getting nominated for MVP, and you're hearing actual Kevin O'Connell Head Coach of the Year awards. And it was just like, yeah, we've been waiting for you, NFL media, the whole season. We've been waiting for you. But the whole thing was like, people were saying, oh, Sam Darnold's contract's going to be like, something that starts with a 4. And then they beat the Packers, and now that number starts with a 5. And now you're going to hear this week, oh, that number starts with a 4. And so it's just like, until team seasons are officially over, I would like to not, I try to not get into too many hypotheticals, long-term future or stuff like that, because I think having Sam Darnold as the Vikings starting quarterback next season is awesome. They could franchise tag him. Hate doing that. Hate saying that. Unless they were playing a Madden franchise, but you got a good. The Vikings have a really good problem, man. No one thought they were winning. Like, honestly, most people, gun to the head, money on the line, like real cash. We got cash on the line here. I don't think people thought the Vikings were winning 10 games. They won 14. All right, here's the Super Bowl picks. Lions versus Ravens or Chiefs. I like it. Tend to agree. Nathaniel. Lions, Broncos. Hell yeah. JK Chiefs. Fuck. Sam just played like a chicken with his head cut off. Word. Lions fans are bringing me to a whole new level after the loss. And we're just in that. I think Aaron Rodgers said this in his documentary, and I keep bringing this up in streams. We're in the age of outrage. Like, my Packers video is just doing horrible right now because we just lost to the Bears, and I get in. We lost to the Vikings the week before, and I'm a little bit more of an optimist. I don't think it's really as dire as people make it seem to be. Like, just because the Vikings lost today, and technically they've lost to the Lions 2 straight times. Like, I mean, hell, man. Whoever plays the Lions, sorry, Lions fans, but whoever plays the Lions in week 2 could theoretically take them down, and Minnesota could avoid them. And there's just like so many hypotheticals out there. I'll do a bracket at some point this week if anyone's interested. This Yahoo Sports thing isn't doing it for me, although I guess this is technically the bracket. The whole every sport's ruining. Every sport, in my opinion, is ruining the playoffs. I'm thinking golf specifically, but I'm sure there's not too many golfers, golf enjoyers out there, playoff golf, PGA Tour playoff golfers out there. I don't like what the NHL did at all. Still is honestly super confusing to me. My Blackhawks suck. We've sucked for a very long time, so that's probably a big reason. Thunder looking great. Your Thunder are looking great. It's going to suck when Brian Flores leaves. Hopefully we find a new DC. 2 big things. You saw it. Brian Flores versus Ben Johnson was talked about all week. We saw a couple of glimpses of it with both of them with their clipboards in front of them. I said that a little bit in my Lions video saying, like, look, man, Aaron Glenn just called one hell of a game. Folks, dude, we're doing record numbers. This is crazy. My Detroit Lions video has 3,700 views in 55 minutes. I love all of you watching this live. You guys mean the world to me. I want to do these more. I used to do these all the time, but we would only watch Houston Rockets games. In college, my 5th year, I tried doing like NBA recaps for the whole league, and people didn't really watch it. So I appreciate you, everyone, live and post-live, tuning into this. We need JJ develop and not take recognition from Sam off his game, but the amount of Vikes fans that are turning on him are crazy, and that's just what's going to happen. And that's what's going to happen. I had a brief thought. I made a Vikings video yesterday, and I had a brief thought where it was like, obviously this year's Vikings team is completely different than last year. Or sorry, 2 years ago, right? Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk Cousins, crazy-ass run, Kevin O'Connell, a lot of crazy stuff. They won, similar one-point games, but, once you get into the advanced statistics and the point differentials and just using your eyes, like everything is so different than the 2022 Minnesota Vikings. But I had that thought where it was like, it is different in the sense of, for the Minnesota Vikings, where it's like similar record to that 2022 Vikings team. But when you watch it, you feel a lot different. And if you're a Vikings fan, I'm sure you feel it very different. Like, it's not even close to the Kirk Cousins season. But record-wise, it is. And if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, now I guess to the Los Angeles Rams on the road, people are going to bring up certain things. And I don't know, man. Even if the Vikings get their ass stomped in from the Los Angeles Rams 1 week from now, I don't see a reason to move past Sam Darnold. I think there's a way to get him there. Maybe like a similar Baker Mayfield contract. I also get people are concerned with like journeymen, but I still think the Vikings are in a really good spot, and they have a bunch of different options they could do. Lions play Vikings or Rams week 2. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, 100%. And then even, for a Lions fan, like playing against Staff and the Rams, not ideal. Every playoff game is just not going to be ideal. If you're an actual Super Bowl team, and the only merit I'm going off of this is, first off, you can use recent trends, obviously, but I watched the Enigma Green Bay Packers the Aaron Rodgers documentary, and I remember our Super Bowl run almost 15 years ago, and it was like, it was a wild card team, and they took down Philly in the first game. They took down Atlanta, the best team in the NFC, then the next game, and then they took down a Jay Cutler-less Bears in the conference championship. But my point just is, like, even if you're the Lions or you're Philadelphia or you're the Green Bay Packers or you're the Rams or the Bucs or whatever it is, like no matter your seed, you're gonna have to beat a good team. Whether it's the Super Bowl, you're definitely gonna have to beat a good team in the Super Bowl. So that's kind of why my stance is with the Packers, where it's like, oh, let's just get it out of the way. You take down the Philadelphia Eagles, you can beat any team in the NFL. I know the Green Bay Packers can beat Detroit. I know they can beat Minnesota. I know they can beat Philly, but we're in the playoffs. Every team can beat a different team. So I'm really excited, man. Of course, we have 2 AFC games next Saturday. I don't hate the AFC. I like the AFC. I make a ton of AFC videos, but I'm just an NFC North born and bred kind of guy here. Pats fired Gerard Mayo. You don't fire coaches in the first year. You definitely don't. I liked Gronk's kind of rant on that before they cut him off on Fox at halftime today. I completely agree. I don't think Gerard Mayo, I mean, maybe at the time he theoretically, hypothetically made sense, but I don't know. I was going to use the Vrabel firing as an example to go get Callahan, but obviously the Titans had a Titans year. We know where the Titans stand this season, but I don't know. I don't think Gerard Mayo is the future coach for the Patriots. So I understand and I do agree you don't fire coaches in the first year, and I was pretty surprised, but not really they fired Gerard Mayo, but I think it's time to get into that offensive mindset. I think there's like a Ben Johnson rumor floated out there for the Patriots. I'm sure there's a Ben Johnson move out there for every coaching gig in the NFL right now. But yes, I hope we don't give up on Sam. One bad game doesn't mean we need to completely give up on him. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. And even that like Rams game Thursday night, their second loss of the season, short week, Thursday night football on the road against Los Angeles. It's going to be a completely different game. Like who said it here? Jack said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. But they say this in the NFL. They say this in the NBA. They say this in the MLB. They say this in every sport. It's hard to beat a team back-to-back. And obviously that was week off the dome, I'm going to guess 8 or 9. It was definitely week 8 or 9 where the Vikings played the Detroit Lions, a physical game like you saw today. Very physical game. Important to keep that in mind. The Rams rest of starters. I get it. But that Vikings-Rams game is actually extremely interesting. It's a very interesting matchup for both sides. Because obviously, like, on paper, I'm leaning the Vikings should win that game, right? Oh, technically, they lost to the Rams. Go back and watch that Rams game. We'll do that. We'll do that for a Vikings video this week. We'll go back, watch that Rams game, and figure out what happened wrong. But I think KOC could figure out on a short week, because that was Sunday night football. I think it was a Sunday at 4:25 game against Detroit, and then Thursday night on the road, Los Angeles. So they do have to head back to Los Angeles for this game, but it's not a short week. You're not playing on Thursday. That's the point here. When the news came out, it's early in the afternoon. Yeah, that was probably right after their loss. Or, sorry, win. I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts on Gerard Mayo getting fired. I don't think he. In theory, I like the hire. Just like I like the Antonio Pierce hire in theory. I just don't think stuff like that usually works out. Because typically, like what you need to do if you're a coach is you need to hire good, like Dan Campbell. We're talking on the screen here. Ben Johnson might leave if the Lions win the Super Bowl. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn might leave. And if you ask somebody in like the media world, they're probably both leaving. And so now it's up to Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions organization to hire the proper coordinators in the absence of him. And a really good example, in my opinion, would be Cliff Kingsbury over on the Washington Commanders right now. But, I mean, he might be booted out after this season because what he's doing with Jaden Daniels. So keeping coordinators is tough, and that's why Dan Campbell stepped behind the presser after the loss last season saying, look, I've been here before. I don't know if we're going to get back. We're going to try to get back, but it's hard to get back. I hate saying this, but for a mid-year, the KC Chiefs seemed fraudulent and lucky, but now they're looking way more legitimate. And this is so eerily similar to the last 2 Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowls, and that's what sucks. I would say if you're like if the Chiefs, and I always say this on the streams, like the Chiefs played San Francisco last year. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I hate the San Francisco 49ers from the bottom of my heart. bottom of my heart, I hope San Francisco, they have cool uniforms. It's a really cool city, really cool state. I love everything about San Francisco and their football program, but like Chiefs 49ers has absolutely no interest to me. But if Kansas City had taken on Detroit last year, I would have felt very differently. Kansas City had taken on the Green Bay Packers, I would have felt very differently. But the Kansas City Chiefs haven't played a team in the last 2 years that I actually like really gave a rip about. I don't give too many rips about Philly. I definitely don't give a rip about San Francisco. But Kansas City's looking good, man, and that's been the reoccurring theme in the last 2 seasons. In baseball, it's hard to sweep a 4-game series. It's hard to sweep a 3-game series. Team baseball, MLB teams are happy with a 2 out of 3 series. You do that. Not good at math here. 160 divided by 3 would be around 50. Goodwill Hunting skit 52. It'd be about 52.76, and you win 2/3 of those. I mean, you're looking at a good team. So sweeping a 4-game series, like, fuck. It'd be like the Vikings playing on the road against Detroit like 4 times, 3 times. I'll give you 3 times. It'd be like playing Detroit on the road 3 times. Playing Kansas City 3 times on the road. They had people training under them. Yeah, of course. But you just never know. And that's how a lot of these coaches obviously get gigs, or you bring in somebody, like I just said, Cliff Kingsbury. You bring in somebody proven, a Dan Quinn, a Cliff Kingsbury. They got a young DC, though. Good coaches hire good. Good coach. That's why you hire good coaches, because they know how to hire. And Dan Campbell's been in the NFL. He's been around the NFL. He's played on a couple of teams. He's got some coaching gigs. Like, I feel good that Dan Campbell can figure this out. And we did the same thing with like the Ravens earlier, mid-ish in the season. Then the Ravens start 0-2. And we were saying, the Mike McDonald departure is going to hurt them. And, that's why the Ravens are going to suck this season. They lost all these players on the offensive line. They lost all these defensive coaches. And, now they're 12-5 and got a home playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Lamar Jackson's about to win an MVP, as he should, to be honest with you. Although, Jared Goff's – maybe I shouldn't say that. I always do kind of think Jared Goff should get way more praise. That 5-pick game probably kiboshed a Jared Goff MVP legitimacy. But, folks, I think that's going to be it for tonight. It's 12:42. I got to hit the stew and rhymes, but it doesn't make sense. So thank you guys for tuning in here live and post live. I appreciate all of you. We had really great viewers in today's show. I appreciate specifically everyone who comments live, man. You guys keep this going. It's what makes it fun to me. I can never do a non-live podcast, so I appreciate you guys so much. Hit the like button as always. I think our high is in the 40s, so hit that like button. But as always, it's available on streaming sites. I'll post a link once we're live on Will Upton here. But I appreciate you all. The link's in the description if you want to at least hit it a follow. A 5-star goes a really long way. People aren't listening to the podcast too much, but I'm going to take it with all these live viewers. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in a couple of days. It's not going to be long.